Okay, on this episode of my YouTube channel, I'm just gonna do another lazy rant on Hollywood. Now, I already talked about this subject, but I'm gonna talk about superhero movies. Like, that's the problem with Hollywood. Anytime they find a fad, they run it into the ground, you know? Anytime they find something that might lead to box office potential, well, you can believe like a zillion movies are gonna come out, you know? That, like, they did that with Westerns, they did that with science fiction after Star Wars, and now it's superhero movies. Like, I agree with something Martin Scorsese said. Superhero movies is gonna be the death of Hollywood. You know, the people who want adult, serious entertainment and not escapism are gonna have to turn to the television. And that's what I love about superhero movies. You know, like at Comic-Con, you know, do you see some of the guys at Comic-Con? You know, have a heart on these guys, okay? When you make a woman like the Black Widow in a superhero movie, don't show a woman like Scarlett Johansson to comic book nerds. You'll never be with a woman that attractive, you know? The only way you'll be with Scarlett Johansson if you're a fan of comic books is if she's a little dumpy and unattractive. That woman the comic book kids can aspire to. And I'm not talking shit on them. I was one too as a kid, but, you know, and show women that are achievable to the audience. Like, oh, and the shared universe thing, you know. Like, that's why you gotta feel sorry for some actors. Like, I'm pretty sure Robert Downey Jr. was desperate for a paycheck, and he goes, oh, I'll just take the part of Iron Man in one movie, maybe one sequel. This isn't going to go anywhere. 15 years later, he's finally done with the invincible Iron Man. Like, all these superhero movies, like Jaws was the death of adult entertainment in Hollywood. It was the death of realism. You know, at the end of Jaws, at the part where Chief Brody, you know, to defeat Jaws, shoves an oxygen tank into the shark's mouth and shoots it with the rifle after saying, "Smile, you son of a bitch." Okay, that would never happen in reality. That is pure escapism. He might as well stuff the souffle in Jaws' mouth and expected the souffle to blow up. That's just as realistic. I mean, Jaws was the death of realism in movies. You know, then came the notion of, well, we can forget all about realism in, you know, movies. We can just do anything we want to entertain the audience. You know, and I feel sort of bad for some of the kids who, or some of the guys especially, who like comic book movies. I don't think, you know, the actors are sharing in the love of these characters they're playing. I mean, at one Comic-Con, you know, Ben Affleck and the rest of the cast of the Justice League are doing a photo op for the fans of the Justice League. And, well, aside from Ben Affleck, all the actors and actresses are sticking out their tongues at the fans. I mean, yes, comic book movies. I mean, that's a fad that we all pray will go the way of the Western, you know. I mean, comic book movies, like Martin Scorsese said, is going to be the death of Hollywood, or at least the death of adult entertainment. You know, now every movie studio sees box office potential in shared universes. Yes, we need more movies where you have to watch like all, 50 movies in a series to understand the plot. Like I said, when you're making movies for, nerdy kids, don't show them Scarlett Johansson. A woman like Black Widow's too attractive to ever want to be with the comic book kid, She wants to be with a guy who looks like Iron Man, who's a billionaire, looks like Captain America with the chiseled chin. She doesn't want to go with the guy who reads comic books. Gonna make movies for the comic book kids. Show women, that might actually accept going on a date with you. Show a girl who's a little bit overweight who might be very nice and might be very kind, but don't show them Scarlett Johansson. Like, Hollywood's great. Anytime they find a fad, they run it into the ground, and now super villains are, getting their own movies. Like how bad is it gonna be when till it gets to the point where Warner Brothers goes, well, we've done all the good movies about the popular supervillains, but we're desperate. Well, let's make a movie about Condiments Man, Condiments Man is a supervillain, and he robs banks with mustard and ketchup. He'll like spray ketchup on you and say, why so ketchup? How bad is it gonna be until Warner Bros. Makes a movie about Polka Dot Man, a super villain whose theme is polka dots. I mean, that's how bad it's getting with superhero movies. Like, as a kid, I was a comic book nerd too, but I sort of outgrew it, but, I loved Batman as a kid. The only movie series who I brought myself out to the theater to see every time was the Batman series. I loved Batman as a kid. I loved Batman Returns. Then the series was given to Joel Schumacher, and he only got the job because they thought Tim Burton's Batman was too serious and dark for kids. So they got Joel Schumacher to make Batman more kid-friendly. See, that's what happens when you put a gay man in charge of Batman. Then there's bat nipples on the bat suit. There's like shots of Batman's leather-clad ass, and as a kid, I was desperately trying to tell myself, oh yeah, Batman's going in the right direction. I told myself that after seeing, Batman in the theater, Batman and Robin in the theater. I was like, oh, that was a great movie. That was hilarious. I mean, Arnie's ice puns get funnier. It gets increasingly funnier. Like, ice to meet you. How is that? How could that, like, never not be funny? Chill out. Yes, Dr. Freeze, we got it. Your theme is ice. Like, comic book movies are great. Like, apparently Tom Cruise at one point in the 90s was up for the part of Iron Man, you know, and, you know, he didn't get the part, and, you know, when they talked to Tom Cruise, like, decades later about that, he's like, oh yeah, I was devastated. I didn't get to play Iron Man. It was the one tragedy of my career. Like, that's a great thing about comic book movies. That would never happen in reality. You know, if in reality a guy dressed up as a giant bat to, you know, fight crime, I don't care he's a billionaire. I don't care what your tragic backstory is. You would be in the same insane asylum as the Joker. You know, the only difference would be at least the Joker knows he's crazy, you know? That would never happen in reality. Oh, damn. Didn't mean it. Okay, that's it for this rant. But like I said, don't show the comic book nerd Scarlett Johansson. We'll never be with a woman that attractive. Aim to be with a woman who's at least 200 pounds overweight and not 300 pounds overweight. It might be very nice. We'll never be with Scarlett Johansson. Okay, I'm out.